Hey there, everybody. PT Pop here with all four lobes of my brain securely bound behind my back, and welcome back to another episode of PT Pop, a Mind Revolution, where I lead you out of the rabbit hole, one grain of truth at a time. I'm really excited about today's show because I have a phenomenal artist from Columbus, Ohio, and her name is Fatima Taylor. Her maiden name is Azimova. She was born in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, in the former USSR, and she now lives here in Ohio, and she's just an amazing artist. I love her work. It's beautiful, it's vibrant, it's exciting to look at, and you'll love to see her work here. So, Fatima, thanks so much for being on the show today, and welcome to PT Pop, a Mind Revolution.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's really exciting to talk with you because I've been looking at your work more since we last spoke, and I don't even know where to begin sometimes, but it's really beautiful work. So you're originally from the USSR. That's considered the Soviet Union, correct?
Correct. Uzbekistan is a former USSR republic, and for quite a few years, over 70 years, it belonged to united with Russia, and together 15 republics joined together.
Mm-hmm.
And Uzbekistan was separated in 1991, gained independence, and since 1991, it became an independent country. Yeah.
And you now reside in Reynoldsburgh, Ohio?
Correct.
So how long have you been in the United States? When did you first come here?
I immigrated to the United States in 2001, before September 11, actually in the first week of April. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you were here when 9/11 happened then?
Correct.
So that had to be pretty shocking for...
Oh, it was absolutely devastating. I remember watching news and walking outside and looking at the sky and thinking, is this the last time I see a peaceful sky? It was absolutely shocking, very unexpected and terrifying.
I know. I've never looked at the sky the same way since. So it's really affected how I look at the world in more ways than just the sky. But yeah, it was really traumatic.
Really been such a crazy time.
Yeah.
It's remarkable in a good way and historical way. I mean, we're thinking our kids, our grandkids will look back in a history and research and study us and the time we lived in.
Yeah, that's true. I was reading through your bio, and I have a very important question. How did you come to name your dog Cheese?
Beautiful story. My son, Max, my older son, Max, bought Cheese, and he's always, he loves Shiba Inu. Cheese is Shiba Inu, mini Shiba Inu. And one time when I went on vacation, he knew exactly that there's no way I'm going to have a pet in the house. You know, it was the schedule crazy, no pet in the house. And he surprised me with a baby Shiba. And because of the color, I guess he decided to call him Cheese, as an American orange color, kind of orange red cheese.
Oh, nice.
That's the inspiration. But so I adopted him as he was. And from then on, he's turned 7 years old. So.
Oh, nice. I love Shiba Inus. We've got a German Shepherd that they say is part Chow, but I think she's part Shiba Inu. But I just think they're the cutest dogs. I subscribe to a channel on Instagram where these people make their Shiba Inu do all these really silly little things. So.
Me too. I follow them obsessively, and they look very cute. But don't get me wrong, that they are very stubborn and strong personality. They're hunters, so not as cute as you think they look. They're not.
Yeah. So as I'm looking through your bio, it says here that your passion for painting and drawing started at a very young age. How young were you when you knew that you loved art and you loved painting?
It's hard to say. I think even I remember my mother used to say that our walls were covered with scratches and crayons and pencil lines. I guess as soon as I held my pencil or even crayon or anything that you can possibly scrape a line, I start on intuitive level just drawing and scribbling and doing something. But I don't remember a time when I didn't draw or paint or did anything with my hands. So the urge of creating something, whether it's three-dimensional or painting or drawing, working with mud or something, it was always constant there. And there was never a question whether I will be an artist or not. It was present.
So when you were growing up, your first part of your life in Russia, and all I know about Russia is what they teach us in our history classes and through the media. And I'd always heard that they would suppress artists and they would put people in jail for being artists and stuff like that. Did you see that? Did you see artists getting in trouble for being artists before you moved over here?
Most important, of course, the subject matter was controlled. There wasn't such a freedom of expression. It was control. And you grow up in an environment where, as a child, you learn to not be expressive, and it becomes a norm. And only at the age of, adulthood, especially when you leave the country, you realize, looking back, oh, yeah, that's right.
What was it like? I know you had some trouble adjusting to American culture, but it must have felt freeing to be here as an artist, because I'm sure you were conscientious of what you could say and what you couldn't say in your artwork. I don't think you were a political artist, but did it feel freeing here that you were finally here where you could do what you wanted or not?
I don't think I can ever feel that I'm completely free and I can do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of sense of more of expression, support in the artistic community. Absolutely. America is a diversified country with different languages and cultures. And it was, in fact, I felt a lot more at home being in the United States, because I grew up in cultural diverse family. My mother is from Armenia. She's half Russian, half Armenian. My father was Uzbek and Tatar. So the tension between Islamic religion and Christianity was always present in my family. And throughout my childhood, I felt different, not belonging neither to Russian side or Armenian side nor to Uzbek side. So being in the United States and feeling closer and belonging to, even being foreign, was pretty a new discovery, different experience. So I'm very happy, and I feel like this is my country, and I feel very welcome.
Now, you found me through my documentary, The Artist, and I appreciate you watching that. But I also found we have Ohio University in common, and forgive me, I know you teach there now, or you used to teach at Ohio U.
So I taught for quite a few years in regional campuses, Chillicothe, Ziegfeld, and Lancaster. And then I applied for graduate school for MFA program. And when I was accepted, so currently I'm a second year graduate student. And as a graduate student, I also teach as well, studio art. Yes. But I do have experience of teaching in Chinese State University, Introduction to Art, and also studio art, painting, drawing, and also in Ohio University. So just going to school and receiving the American Master's degree in Fine Art is, in my mind, valuable experience, at my age, and as a foreign student. Well, actually, I applied as American student. English is my second language.
Yeah. Well, it says here you were awarded the Graduate Recruitment Scholarship and Graduate Assistant.
Correct.
At Ohio University. What are those? It sounds pretty prestigious.
It's pretty much free tuition, and you get a stipend as well. So, yeah. But with that, you have to maintain your higher GPA. Of course, you have to do well. But it's not that hard. I think at my age, I love the world of academia. I love studying, learning, and being, observing each lesson. And the teachers are super smart and very passionate, and it's such a pleasant experience. And
so you don't have a website. So where can people go to find your work?
they can find me on social media, Instagram and Facebook, preferably social media and Instagram, because I often post my newest work or sometimes sketches or research or study ideas on Instagram.
Okay, great. And so we had spoken a little bit before this, and I'd asked you who your inspirations were, and you said postage stamps inspired you, the artwork on postage stamps. And I'm going to bring up your work here. So what's the title of this work, and what is the significance behind the stamps behind the child there? Is that your son?
No, it's actually me, self-portrait based on my older black and white photograph.
Wow.
So this is the image of me. Of course, I painted. It is acrylic on canvas. And also, well, it is mixed media, actually, because the collage, the stamps on the background is collage. So they're not, of course, a real size of the stamps. They are enlarged, and it's basically paper glued on canvas.
Mm-hmm.
So stamps were my first exposure to art. When I was a child, I collected cards, calendars, and postal cards. But I began with postal stamps because, at that time, sending mails and cards and letters was such a common. And my mother was she was a president in international club in school, and herself and students were corresponding with different students from outside of the country, foreign students. And so I've witnessed a lot of different postal stamps, and I began paying attention to design and font and colors and symbols and the iconography of each. Of course, I couldn't always understand, but I was so attracted and fascinated by the design and miniature of the artwork. And that was my first collection. And in this particular portrait, I was trying to depict similar age of my interest to postal stamps and the postal stamps on the background. However, the title is slightly different because you can't see it, but there are words written all around the head, on the side. Yeah. And those are the fragments of the lyrics from a childhood song was "Let It Always Be a Sunshine," one of my favorite songs during my childhood. And I just wanted to, because the message was, there are some of the fragments of more propaganda-like statements of the stamps. A lot of them were very propagandistic, many other images. But as a child, of course, I couldn't read that message. I saw the beauty and the brilliance of design. Anyway, the title of the song, the painting is "Let It Always Be a Sunshine."
Oh, how wild! Because I would have never guessed that. It's the backdrop is just fascinating. The collage of stamps, but in a way, now that you mention it, does look kind of like a propaganda poster in a way from the old Soviet Union. Maybe no offense. I don't mean that to be offensive, but
no.
It strikes me as one of those Chairman Mao shirts that he would wear, or I don't know, but the color scheme is very sad in a way. Is it supposed to be kind of sad?
Well, I love color blue, and it can be very sad. It can be very pure and very bold and very aggressive even. But in this case, it brings a lot of contrast to this kind of faded brown, rustic color. So I purposefully wanted to go away from more realistic depiction of a color. Of course, the child normally is depicted with, all bright red, but here it's more like a faded memory of this image of a childhood, me back in the past. And color of a blue adds a little bit of nostalgia, a little bit of, a lost memory. And it also goes well as a complementary color to the brown, this rustic brown color. Yep.
Yeah,
so
it's a beautiful,
more strategic choice of a color, but also, to me, I am a colorist. I love colors, and they do represent a lot of meanings and different, of course, different painting.
I find that your color schemes are just fascinating. And this next piece, I think, is one of your teachers or a professor.
Julie. She's in my committee. Is a committee member. She's not my teacher. Yeah, she's actually director in our program. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just, I've noticed you do a couple things in some of these portraits where you really emphasize the eyes. And in this one specifically, you, it's almost not pointillist, but you suggested the brushstrokes and suggested colors in almost a pointillist way. Because if you pull away from it, it kind of all visually blends together, but it's, you must have fond, feelings for this person because you portray her almost looking like a whimsical little half smile. Her eyes are very emphasized, and the eyes are just beautiful. You're just like drawn to them automatically.
Thank you, Peter. I love faces. I'm so attracted to human forms, especially faces. I think my diverse cultural background, taught me how to pay attention to noses and eyes, traveling from one side of a country to another and noticing, all this skins and type of facial profiles. But to answer your question, yes, I'm obsessed with Julie's face and the way she looks. Her gaze is just staring and looking through you.
Yeah.
Super sweet and I was trying to capture her personality. She's very easygoing and sweet and kind and absolutely loving and charming lady. But when you talk to her, you realize how smart and intelligent and there is a fundamental metal structure underneath that holds everything together. So she's very strong and powerful, and there are so many different layers of complexity, and that's what I was trying to depict. That nothing simple about this lady, and so in character.
And so I'm going to go to another piece here. This one, in contrast, I think this is a self-portrait, correct?
Correct.
And I asked you what inspired the color scheme, and I don't know if you said, did you say acid indigestion or something to me?
Acid reflex.
Acid
reflex.
Were you just being funny? I'm guessing.
No, well, every joke has a little bit of joke, right? So there's some truth to it, of course. When I think about colors, of course, when I paint, I use every tool, line, texture, color, contrast. Everything plays role, as sometimes it looks accidental. Nothing is accidental. I manipulate every form to achieve certain quality and certain emotional state. So color, of course, is extremely powerful. Last fall, I was experimenting with neon bright colors, and I wanted to achieve that strong, kind of almost vulgar reaction. I didn't necessarily like the neon color itself, but in combination of other tones, gray and light purple, it kind of speaks very loud. And in this case, I wanted to look as a flame or acid flame on the background. So when you look at the portrait, yes, the figure is staring at you directly, yet with your side vision, you can't not notice this acidic flame around that. And it's overwhelming and overpowering. That is it's competing with the model itself. So that conflict and tension, that's what I appreciate or I try to achieve. The pose of a model is in such a contrast with the background, and it adds this dynamic flame looking like more unpredictable state.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I noticed with this is that the expression on your face is very serious to me anyway, but you don't look like that in the photographs I've seen of you. You're looking serious. Your skin tones are almost gray.
True.
But it almost looks like you're floating in a laser or yellow fire. But the color schemes, so you actually think these color schemes out ahead of time.
Absolutely. I mean, for the past few years, I almost never want to depict a figure the way they look in real life. Of course, I follow some proportions and, likability, but at the same time, there's such a huge room for experiments. And again, using the color and tonal values to really express the personality or current state of mind, feelings, or certain mood that I was trying to depict. But I think you are spot on with the attitude was there, and I wanted to depict that.
Did you? You did.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You have a certain color scheme you go through on most of your paintings. Go to this next one here. There's a lot of pastels, but in this one, I mean, your progression of work. Now, I don't know what years these are, but you've gone from more of an impressionistic portraiture style to this surreal. I guess you would call it surrealistic or surrealism, or what do you call that?
So this particular is not surrealism, and it was completed last summer. Actually, beginning of fall semester, the first year in grad school. Mm-hmm. And the previous two portraits were completed also during the first year. So it's relatively new, other than the childhood painting was much older, but for the past three paintings were relatively new. This is a drawing. It's actually paper, colorful markers, and pen on paper is a drawing. I love drawings. Mm-hmm. And I think you asked me earlier whether I prefer just painting or other medium, and drawing is equally important for me. In fact, a drawing, I call it as a thinking process. I have tons of sketches, and before I even, not always, but most of the time, it is important for me to record my ideas through smaller or larger sketches. Mm-hmm. This is a large sketch, about 30 inches, and I have a series of those doodling and turning into this expression, emotional expression. And a lot of times I think about, through the distortion of a body and bright colors, soulless, expressive. I use pink here as not as a pleasant, feminine, exciting color, but more as like repelling and kind of sickening color to contrast the green and just mm-hmm. to go one with the emotions I was trying to depict. And the face is more like a mask rather than mm-hmm. real human and face, and you can see the background through the eyes, and kind of indicates the almost emptiness or the hollowness of the figure, and it's lacking some limbs and kind of dissected almost, so it adds more fragility and lifeless to the character.
It almost looks like the subject is tormented,
exactly,
or in anguish or some sort. So what? I don't know if you know the psychology behind why you picked this. Was there an intent behind expressing something like this, or is it just what happened as you drew?
And it doesn't always have to be a particular clear message. This is about blue sky and green grass, and it is more about state of mind that I had at that time. However, looking back, and often I want my audience to look and perhaps recognize that they may be in a similar state of mind, and think about the hollowness and this emptiness and the crookedness and the all this awkwardness that they feel, recognizing that and being connected on their personal level with this work,
Well, I think another thing I noticed here is that the placement of the subject on the canvas makes it look like he or she is trapped in a box and is almost in a crate or something like that. That's how I see it. I mean, it may not be, but the placement just creates that tension of the walls are closing in on that subject. Now this one blows me away because it's Cubist, right? Cubist in nature.
It may look cubistic for somebody, and I honestly, there's no such a thing as a wrong terminology. You say what it looks like to you, and you can mm-hmm. interpret it in the way you want. And listen, my door is open to anyone's interpretation. I mm-hmm. will never be offended if it looks cubism to you, or impressionism, or realism. That's perfectly fine. But I was guided by the mosaic. In Uzbekistan, all the republics of Stan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, the folk art is very well developed. And one of the biggest tradition using ceramics and tiles and mosaic, of course. If you're familiar, the style of mosques, how they blue colors of mosaic. So I grew up seeing that and being very inspired. I always wanted to learn how to do that, but never actually had a chance. But the visual interpretation, the way the color flows and how the shape transforms, I was inspired by that. So it looks like mosaic, but it is actually watercolor markers on paper and watercolor paper.
And it flows like water. There's almost like a water feeling to it. Almost like in the bottom right, like a whirlpool of, like all the water's coming down and just swirling into this bottom right-hand corner between the two busts. We got a similar theme as from 2 paintings ago. And, these remind me a little bit of Where Wild Things Are. I think I mentioned that on Instagram. I don't know if you're familiar with that children's book. But have you ever considered getting these animated? Like giving them to an animator and turning them into live creatures?
That would be great.
Wouldn't that be something?
Fantastic. Yes.
I mean, this is just amazing. Just the colors and the textures and again, it feels like a monster trapped in a box of flames or something. I don't even know how to put this. I just am blown away by the colors and the composition.
You would laugh if I tell you actually what was the inspiration. The inspiration was my self-portrait.
This is the self-portrait?
Right. I was thinking about, I look at myself in the mirror. I can't stand self-portraits. I hate them. But, and I have no problem to depict the distortion of the body and how you really feel. And I like that. I like to play with proportions and, have intention to kind of have a broken, tormented torso, and it's very playful. My first job was a cartoonist. I wasn't as a main cartoonist, but I'm very familiar with the old-fashioned cartoon and drawing the faces and how the movement and how the locomotion of character created. So, but idea of turning this into cartoon is really exciting. Thank you.
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, I just love the hair. Is that hair?
Yes.
It looks like he's going into the wind, like the wind is blowing his hair and
floating.
Yes. Yeah. It's just the overall composition, just the way the canvas is broken up. And it's just there's so many things that keep you in the canvas too. There's, a lot of paintings are boring and they, you're let off the canvas and you don't want to look at it anymore. But this one, you're stuck in it. It's like a maze of textures and shapes and colors. Okay, so this is your husband, correct?
Correct.
This is Scott? Paul. That was Scott. Okay. So this is more of a realistic portrait.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got symbolism all throughout this that must pertain to him or to both of you, like with the elephant and the eagle, and there's a 4-leaf clover. I don't know if is he Irish?
Yes.
Okay.
Partially Irish. He has Lithuanian, Italian, Irish.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do the animals symbolize? No, it's beautiful work too, because you really, when I contrast it to your friend, the lady who looked whimsical, he looks kind of almost not sad, but he's kind of like looking, pondering life or something. So is he kind of a very deep person?
He can be. He's an analyst. He works at the JP Morgan and Chase Bank, and he's an analyst. So his profession, his job requires him to be very focused and, sometimes in a very deep focus. But overall, he's absolutely happy and funny and incredibly diverse person as well.
Good.
He's a very talented in art as well. He doesn't have very much experience, but he is a great draftsman and he has some experience with me painting. But for this portrait, actually, this is a fragment. The drawing is slightly large. This is a drawing, color pencil on paper.
Wow.
if you zoom in at some point, you can see the very small, teeny tiny. I'm a maximalist. I'm obsessed with the tiny, tiny details. And ever since my childhood, drawing, sometimes I do doodling, sketching, and rough, kind of harsh lines. But sometimes I go into this obsessive detailing that I just dive in and I can't even stop. And with color pencils, it sometimes pulls you in, and you can be submerged with all these layers. Because with the modern technology, you can use all kinds of different blending tools and blending liquids to blend the layers of colors, so it creates a smooth, almost realistic effect. You literally can achieve a quality of a photography. I wasn't trying to do that in this one, but to answer your question, the symbolism behind, yes, it's again intuitive. The eagle on the left side certainly reminds me this strong profile of my husband, beautiful Italian nose, and the posture and this eyes, the gaze, how he's sometimes staring at something when he's thinking, and looking at his face certainly reminds me this wild nature of a eagle. The clover leaf is maybe too direct, but it's kind of good luck. And many years ago, I found 5-leaf clover. And I know if you can find 4-leaf clover, you consider yourself lucky. Imagine me finding 5-leaf clover. So this is a 5-leaf clover to me. It is my 5-leaf clover,
How about the elephant? What is the elephant?
The elephant is, in many countries, it is a symbol of power, wealth, prosperity. But here, to me, it is a symbol of the powerful nature, kindness, and this majesty, huge monumental creature that has such a strong presence.
Now, this is the mural down in Hilliard, Ohio, correct?
Correct.
And this is big because you look dwarfed in comparison to the size of this. So tell us behind this, how did you get commissioned to do this, and how long did it take you to make it?
Andy Warnock was, he commissioned me to paint this large mural. And actually, this mural is facing brand new basketball course, indoor basketball and volleyball course that he just built. And he's such a wonderful entrepreneur and great young businessman in Hilliard, Ohio. And he met me through some art community, and we talk about the ideas. And when I submitted the watercolor sketch, his idea was basically to depict a large mural that celebrates youth and athletic success in the young community. And the idea was, the title for this mural is Higher Goals. And I was trying to celebrate the athletic young kids who are, actually in the center, this is the owner himself and his family, and this celebration of success, and a large basket net kind of placed higher and of course it's enlarged as like a giant sun, it's like a planet symbolizing this success. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. How long did it take you to paint?
Probably maybe 2 months.
Wow.
3 months. So outdoor mural is very different than indoor, because you don't really control nature. There was construction going on the side, so I had to kind of avoid the busy days or dusty days. So it's really, I would think, roughly 3 months.
Wow, that's a long time. It's just really, I love the placement of the characters and the juxtaposition of the family in the center with the players around it. So it's really well thought out again, and the color choices are beautiful too.
Thank you. So this is basically a few images that larger canvas.
Excuse me, is it called Resilience Unbound?
The title for the exhibition, I I'm just thinking about suggesting an exhibition that will be titled Resilient Unbound, and then navigating the dynamic of power. Resilience Unbound, navigating the dynamics of power.
I love that.
And so the current subject is more about oppression, power dynamics, and control. I'm trying to find a narrative that captures the essence. And as you see, the style has changed slightly. There's more abstract elements and more drawing looking like. And this is actually a original drawing, larger drawing with just a very basic markers and
is that Russian in the center of the screen?
It is Russian.
What's that say?
Always tell the truth. It says always tell the truth.
Always say that in Russian for me. I want to hear you speak.
Всегда говори правду.
Oh, nice.
And this is a larger canvas. It's 6 by 9 feet. I think it's actually 7 by 10 feet large canvas. So it's kind of rolled. It's not stretched on frame. It's just roll. I have a large wall in my studio where I can stretch large canvases.
I mean, this is such a departure from what you've been doing. This, I would never even guess. Like, if you put all these in a room, I would never guess this was your work. It's so different.
I completely agree. But, when I signed up for the MFA program, when I went back to school, grad school, I promised myself that I'm not going to paint something that I know for sure will work, that I know I can be, because I know I can paint faces and figures, and I know I'm good at, I spent so many years perfecting this skill. But when I went to school, I thought, no, I have to experiment, reinvent myself, rebuild, discover, dig deeper. And it's no longer a goal for me. It was not longer a goal to create something recognizable and beautiful and aesthetically pleasing. I want to go into the depths and dig out the truth and put it on canvas. And it's huge risk because the goal isn't to appreciate the beauty of aesthetics. No, the goal is to tell the truth and show the truth and relate to the audience. And, a very different challenge. And it kind of turned my vision. So I'm in the process of exploring and expressing. And this is my studio. And actually,
oh wow,
yeah, I am sitting right this wall in this painting. So this is my desk.
Oh, that you are right now. Okay.
Oh, it's right behind me. Yeah, exactly.
Do you mind if I comment on this piece?
Sure, absolutely. Feel free.
So it has all kinds of symbolism in it. And it seems like if it's always tell the truth, I'm guessing that blood has been spilled for people to tell the truth. Because there's lots of blood in this. It seems like they're sitting in, this is just my weird imagination, but I'm guessing looks like somebody's gagged and blindfolded.
Yes.
There's blood. There's almost looks like somebody stretched out in a rack I don't know.
Right.
It's either this is more about my weird brain or I'm reading into it too much, or am I on the right track? Or
correct, it is. It is certainly bright red color has very powerful interpretation, and we always associate with dynamic. It is a bloody, and especially when it's diluted with water, and it's certainly color of a fleshy body fluid like. To the point of, it's kind of repulsive and sickening, especially to contrast with this neon yellow. Normally, you would not place this to color to achieve a calm harmony or some poetic, peaceful looking like work. It's intentionally, provokes to this kind of disturbing, really disturbing state of mind. It looks like a neon light coming through and projecting and scanning your thoughts, scanning your memories and everything as if somebody's with flashlight. And the color of red, of course, plays an important role. And the linear quality is important for me. I use line as a very descriptive tool. It is very structural and it's very it's familiar to me, and I try to utilize that from a smaller sketch to a larger sketch to really depict that roughness and the scratchiness of this raw expression. It has a lot of symbolism. It has a lot of personal connection. However, I want to connect with the audience at their level as well. And, history is repeating, the oppression and power control in 20th century in different country isn't too far from 21st century in the United States. We are dealing with a similar problems. It developed through maybe 8 months, honestly. It was begun working in September, and I think I finished that, well, maybe even more in the spring. But it's important to keep that in native language, to use this expression. And I wanted to use this poster-like format to have this commanding power that has very, effective way of expressing the ideas and control the population and dictate certain ideas. So, and during Soviet Union, that was one of the direct method of controlling and using as poster art, as a dictatorship and as a propaganda. But, we are very familiar with the format. Instead of poster art, we use today billboards and televisions and social media. And this is actually a very small drawing from Drawing Sketch. And you can see how kind of chaotic study sketch and misproportions, but it was important for me to kind of stick to a certain color. And this is a larger canvas.
Wow.
I try to keep the linear quality in the sketch raw as it is. And I even appreciate the uneven canvas itself, the edges of it. So it should not be polished and perfectly executed. Another large canvas, untitled, currently.
So, if I may, there's I've seen a couple of figures like this now where it almost looks like your subject is puking, or I don't know how else to put it. Some spewing, something coming out of their mouth. Is that
this child? This figure of a child is actually trapped in the corner. Yet the figure standing in the corner, and those striped lines are actually bars. They could be a stripe of a flag. They can be bars of a cell. It can be some kind of captivity, a format that captures this innocent child or small figure, and keeping this in the corner. And just the idea of being in a corner is kind of repetitive and kind of haunted me to the feelings, what you mentioned earlier, that being captured in the cage. Well, that's a very similar idea. And this is actually not a vomit. Are you talking about the stars that are actually kind of sort of like a shadow and light from the figure?
No, it looks like a mouth. Like is this the red? Is it a red?
Oh, you're talking about the figure on the left.
On the left, yeah, it looks like it's coming out of his mouth. And
so the large, if you squint your eyes, maybe you can recognize this is kind of purposefully distorted hammer and sickle.
Oh,
at some point, it was a figure of a hammer and sickle, but no longer. It's so distorted, so mutated. It's so transformed into current ugly, some kind of form that is no longer hammer and sickle. Guess what? It still has an order. It's still hammering and still present and still dominant in our picture plane and perhaps in our life as well. I want to relate to the sense of power and kind of remove ourselves for a moment from particular geographical location of USSR or Russia or China. It's a lot broader and wider. And I know you and I were kind of thinking about not going into politics, but since we talk about symbol and what do they represent and what audience see, yes, we recognize red color as a color of Soviets and, communism, but it is very symbolical in the United States as well. It's one of the most strongest color in the United States. Of course, here we look at this and read as a color of Christianity. It's the blood of Christ. It's a different, powerful. However, it is present in our flag. It is very American color, and the elements of star, it also very powerful.
Yeah, I've seen stars in the other works too. There's lots of stars. Does that symbolize America?
In some way, but
Okay.
stars were present in USSR culture as well. But that's the idea. We have so many similarities in our cultures. I have a funny story about stars in American culture. When I was a young child, of course, during Soviet Union, we were not very exposed to the truth itself and what's going on in the United States. And I saw some of the elements, American flag. So in my childhood, they taught us in school that when you get something really well, and it's some kind of achievement, they give you a star and they place it on your, it's like a grade book star. So you really can be, you can show and translate your achievements based on the quantity of your stars and the quality of your stars. So when I was a young girl and I look at the American flag and I saw so many stars, the first that came in my mind is like, oh my God, this country must have done something really, really good to earn that many stars.
Wow.
So the child interpretation and the meaning behind in my eyes. So it is a very powerful element, and we can interpret in a different ways. And in this case, there is some irony because if you notice, the stars are sort of like smiley faces, eyeless, no eyes, just a smiley, a little detail, a little sarcasm, perhaps. And yeah.
What is that word in Russian in the bottom right?
Vlast sounds blessed, but it's actually power.
Okay, so that's the Russian word for power.
Political power, right?
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting.
Political power.
So is this somewhat autobiographical too, because of the postage stamps? You put yourself into this. Are you the little girl? Is that a little girl in the corner?
Not necessarily me. It is a child. It is a symbol of innocence. It is a symbol that can be recognized, and we all are this little figure trapped, captivated, captured by long bars of some kind of, oppression and control and power, I don't really want to have a direct interpretation and, prescribe to certain ideas, So the other study of my recent research is, of course, portraiture. I can't step away from the portraits. Professor Vladimir Marchenkov, who also is Russian professor of philosophy and aesthetics in Ohio University, Athens. And I met him just coincidentally, and we became, I would call him a good friend. And I admire his work, and he's a fascinating character. And of course, I asked him to model for me, and I have created a few portraits, and that was a watercolor ink study. And this is more serious, still not completed because I was working in May and I took some break and step away from this work, and I still need to go back and finish some details. Professor Marchenkov is sitting, and the idea was to depict a face of, when you look from the distance, you see this American flag, but it's actually not American flag. It is just a fabric, polyester bought from Walmart. It was actually designed for outdoor furniture. It has nothing to do with the flag. However, we read in such a different way. And I had a lot of questions regarding the display of this. The idea was to display this figure, a very important figure.
Okay, that's fine.
This is a portrait of my husband, Paul, and again, it's a quite recent work.
Why is this one called Sons?
So this is, again, personal story, personal history. We both have 4 children. I have 2 boys from previous marriage, and Paul has 2 boys from previous marriage. And this is more about the fatherhood. We often talk about the motherhood and the presence of, female parent and relationship. But with this painting, I wanted to emphasize, bring more attention on fatherhood and how important it is. Often when I think about, and when I began painting, I always wanted to move away from politics and think about, I'm not a political, and I don't consider myself political, but it's it ties up to politics. Everything is intertwined together with each other. And I always thought, politics starts in our kitchen, the way we build relationship with our children, with our parents, with each other, with siblings. It's such a fundamental base for the future, and in the relationship, and as far as to fathers and sons, it is important. And absence of sons is that heavy topic that I wanted to bring. Of course, it is based on personal experience. I don't want to go into the depth of it, but it is a depiction of absence of sons that should be there, but are not.
Yeah, it's a very striking piece because it's very. You created a great deal of isolation in this piece, and he has kind of a faraway look in his eye. I mean, the way you handled his face is just beautiful.
Thank you.
What's the size of this? Is this another large piece?
About 60 inches wide.
Wow.
Large canvas. And this is a stretched on frame canvas.
And this is this on display somewhere? Is this in your basement or?
It is in my studio, currently in my not home studio, but at the university studio.
Wow. Just the feeling of isolation I get looking at it is a very to me it's somber. I don't know. Huh. Yeah, I like that.
Thank you. Can I move to next?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, feel free.
This is my portrait. We talk about this, and okay, we'll see it. I just wanted to show you a few. Yeah,
I was going to ask you what else you were working on. Do you ever have any showings at like local galleries in Columbus or anything like that?
Yeah, since I've had for the past 20 years, ever since I immigrated, I've been actively involved in shows all over in different states, from California, New York to Miami, Atlanta, Georgia. So,
well, excellent. This has been great. Thank you so much for being on here, and I'll definitely keep in touch with you. Send me out any information if you have showings or any happenings going on around Columbus or Athens.
Peter, thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a great day. Have a good night.
You too. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.